Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Today, bringing you one of my favourite commodities, of course, that would be gold. Felix Gold, the ASX code is FXG, and I'm talking with Anthony Reilly. He's the Managing Director and CEO. They have got a project which is in the Tintina it's up in Alaska, and I can never pronounce it properly, but I'm going to give it a go, Anthony. The Tintina Belt in Alaska. Now, this area, sit up, guys, sit up and pay attention, because this area has got big mines there. And Felix Gold, I want to find out about what they're doing up there. They only listed 18 months ago, January of last year, and Anthony joined the company January of this year. So get your cup of tea ready and let's do the deep dive. Anthony, great to see you.
Thanks, Kerry. Great to be here.
All right. Well, this is the first time that you've talked to our beautiful audience out there. Felix Gold, as I said at the start, one of my favorite commodities, gold.
Yep.
Give us a brief overview of who are Felix Gold.
Sure. Felix, as you mentioned, hit the market in January last year. Felix was put together by a group called the Mine Discovery Fund. Now, those guys are based out of Brisbane. They're a private investment vehicle that scouts the world for tier one gold and base metal projects. They've got a stable of geology guys who are very experienced and have large tier one discoveries to their name. And they also have their own proprietary AI technology, which they use on large data sets to really drill down into areas that they're quite keen on to land on projects that have a very high probability of turning into a tier one discovery. So just giving you that background, this is their first company to come out of their process and list on the exchange. And they wanted to get into the Tintina Gold Belt. And you touched on it, that the Tintina Gold Belt is home to very large resources and a couple of large operating mines. Northern Star's operating up there on the Pogo mine. Mm-hmm. And Kinross has a very large open pit mine called Fort Knox, which has been operating for 25 years. Now, there are other large discoveries in the belt. Typically, they're in the multi-million ounce category, and that's what attracted us to the belt. There's not much below 1 million ounces, but there's a lot of 5 to 10 million ounce discoveries. And the group from Mine Discovery Fund have pulled together about just under 400 square kilometres of tenure. The main part of this tenure is around the Fairbanks district. When Fairbanks is a city in Alaska, so it's the Kalgoorlie of Alaska. It services the Tintina Gold Belt. So our main project areas and our current flagship project is around 20 kilometres away from Fairbanks. So we're not in the middle of the wilderness. We are on highways, easy access to our project areas, and everything's serviced out of Fairbanks. Now, the company, having listed in January, got straight into the field in March and started a 14,000 metre drill program. That went from March to November, and sort of wrapped that up at the end of the season, and had a lot of assays come through sort of in the following months, pretty much until sort of, end of first quarter of this year, which was all very, very, very successful. We were very, very happy with what we've got out of that first campaign, and it really underwrites the original strategy to pick up as much ground as we could in that belt.
Anthony, if I can just go back, I said in the introduction that you were with Bill Beament, who everybody knows, big gold guy back in the day, and you joined in January 23. I want to know, you spoke about Mine Discovery Fund. Do you look at that? Is that what attracted you? Has that kind of de-risked this project in your mind so that you think, we've got enough data for me to come on board and really take this to through the next steps? That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. When I looked at the project, I looked at the company and the project they were working on last year, and the initial Mine Discovery Fund, I guess the interest around that was just the people they've got on board to be able to sort of identify these projects. And these guys have got a track record of discovery. So that ticked a big box for me. The second, obvious one for me was actually the results that were coming out of the ground. Okay. They were onto something. The company was actually drilling into gold mineralization zone, and they were getting the results, which would suggest that they're into a new discovery. And subsequently, we can confirm that. And if you were doing that in Australia, I think you'd be on everybody's lips.
So why aren't you on it? Do you think it's because it's Alaska? Do you think, and let's talk Alaska, because do you think, and I can't talk for our beautiful audience out there, but do you think there's a misconception potentially about mining in Alaska? Do you think that's something that needs to be debunked? I mean, what's your view of Alaska?
Well, the bits I've seen of Alaska, and it's sort of biased because I've only been to where the project is, it's very, very easy. And I think we do need to debunk some perception issues around how potentially remote or inaccessible parts of Alaska are. And certainly there is. I mean, there's places in Alaska that you need to take helicopter support for, and you can't sort of get in or out within particular times. But where we are, Fairbanks City is a major city in Alaska. It's bigger than Kalgoorlie. It's a modern city. It's full of mining services. It actually services the whole of the Tintina Gold Belt. So our projects are only 20 kilometres away from the city. We can go to Starbucks, jump in the car, and be on site within half an hour.
And the Starbucks is still warm.
It is. So it's easy. You tell everyone how easy it is, and they don't believe you. But I can show people photos of Fairbanks in the summer. It's different in the winter because it's all white. But in the summer, it just looks like another town in the middle of the outback.
All right. So the Tintina, because two things you mentioned before. The Northern Star Pogo mine and the Kinross Fort Knox mine. Now, you said the Kinross Fort Knox mine has been going for 25 years. But that tells me that this is a very rich area. If they've been going for 25 years and they're still going, what I want to find out is how far away are you from the Fort Knox mine? And are you on the same geological structure?
Correct. So
wow.
We are 19 kilometres away as the crow flies.
Okay.
We can see the top of their mine from our project area. The mineralised belt is similar, where the drill results that we're getting is quite similar to what they've uncovered at their project. They've been, like I said, on 25 years. Over that 25-year period, they've produced about 8 million ounces of gold. They've probably got another, I don't know the exact number, but potentially another 4 to 5 million ounces in their resource. They are getting towards the end of their mine life at the moment. They're a very large operation there. They've got a 16 million tonne per annum throughput. And they're currently running sort of significantly below capacity, full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So from an operating point of view, that is an opportunity for Felix, being so close. We potentially would need to replicate that processing and infrastructure that is currently right next door. There's another large mine, again, 19 kilometres in the other direction or slightly to the north. It's owned by a Canadian company called Free Gold Ventures. Now, they've just, in the last few months, updated their resource, and they've gone from 3 million ounces to 19.7 million ounces.
What?
Yeah. And they're 19
what sort
kilometres.
Of grades? I know this isn't new, but what sort of grades have they got?
Yeah, well, their average grade's around 0.8 gram per tonne. The Fort Knox mine is processing around 0.5, 0.6 gram per tonne. So these are bulk mining opportunities. These aren't high-grade underground mines, with the sort of high capex, high technical degree of difficulty. These are potentially large open pit mines, or certainly Kinross's Fort Knox is. And that's a similar what we're seeing as well. There's a very sort of variance in grade in the drill results we got last year. We were getting 0.5 in some holes and we were getting over 2 in other holes. And, big intersections of 1 gram plus, 90 metres at 1.4 grams per tonne in several holes, sort of. So the 0.8 to 1 gram per tonne is where we're sort of sitting at the moment, and our average grade last year was 0.8 throughout all of our drill holes. So potentially another thing for Australian investors to get their head around is that, we're not a high grade. The whole area, the whole belt is not high grade. It's typically sort of less than 1 gram per tonne. But our sort of work has delineated a very shallow, open pitable resource potentially. So our average drill depth last year was around 100 metres.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And our sort of modelling is down to 200 metres, whereas Kinross's 25-year mine has been down to sub 400 metres at the moment. So there's potential there for a large sort of bulk mining, shallow, open pit mine. Start again, Kerry.
I'm thinking ahead of myself. How did you guys get this ground? Because you said that Kinross is 19 kilometres to the north. You got Free Gold.
To the east.
Sorry, to the east. You got another one 19. I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Another one 19 kilometres to the other side. What I want to know is, how did you get your hands on this 400 square kilometres of ground? Why didn't someone else pick it up?
Good question. In this part of where we are, up until sort of we arrived, and Felix was established roughly 2 years before we listed. So the Mine Discovery Fund was in that region, working with a couple of partners, local partners in the Fairbanks area, to pull a lot of these small claims together to do this big consolidation play. So there were numerous small operators, individuals, families, small companies that owned a patchwork of claims throughout this Fairbanks region.
Okay.
So basically, through introductions and negotiation and acquisition, the Mine Discovery Fund was able to pull together just under 400 square kilometres of tenure.
Got it.
So we have agreements with vendors, option agreements on some of these areas that we're sitting on and that we're currently working through, but we have control of this 392 square kilometre package.
And that's quite a big package. The drilling, the 14,000 metres that you did in the 6 months, which is, by the way, quite impressive to do that much drilling. What sort of area is that in? And you talk about options in other parts of the package. I guess what I'm asking is, are you just looking and focused on one small area?
Well, as it turned out last year, we had a project called the Treasure Creek Project. Now, we had a lot of historical information over that project. So other companies in the past had done soil geochemistry programs throughout the area, and there were very large gold anomalies within these soil geochemical programs. So, and a couple of old sort of spotty drilling campaigns from decades ago where, some smaller companies have been through and put a few holes in and walked away. So we did have some information to pull together. So once the claims had been consolidated and the information over different areas all sort of came together in a package, the geologists in the Mine Discovery Fund who were consulting us at the time were able to sort of have these high priority drill targets on this Treasure Creek project. Now, that's only one section of this 300 odd kilometre package that we have, but we had the most information there, and that's where we went straight away. And as luck would have it, the sort of second drill hole in this target called the Northwest Array was a very significant, intersection. And from then on, the company was just sort of moving the drill program sort of from the starting in the southern section of this target, moving slowly north, and just pretty much following the gold. And geologists on the ground and using handheld XRF were able to sort of maneuver the drill rig to be sort of successful in probably 70% of the holes that we were drilling. So it was a real sort of very finely tuned campaign last year. Not all of those 14,000 metres went into this one particular target. We had 7 other targets which we tested, which we were getting very similar results to, but they were a bit further away to the east of our main target area. So what it's done is it's given us a sort of a larger overview of one section of this Treasure Creek project. And the main area that we're targeting at the moment is roughly 2 kilometres squared. So like a 2 kilometre box.
Okay. Mine Discovery Fund, initially bringing this all together, what's their involvement now? Have they got a big shareholding within Felix Gold?
They have. So they've maintained after the IPO, they stuck with around 20% of Felix. So they're our largest shareholder.
Okay.
They also have their own shareholders. So after the IPO went through, they distributed some of the stock to all of their shareholders. So we have a bit of a cross-holding of shareholders between the Mine Discovery Fund and Felix. They're all large, sort of high net worth family office type names that are, good to have on the register because they can support us going forwards in terms of financing. So the Mine Discovery Fund, apart from having a shareholding, we also have the benefit of this ongoing consultation with their geology team. So these guys that pulled the projects together or pulled the tenure together 2 years ago are still with us, still advising us on our drill programs and overseeing the work that we're currently doing. They're not running it for us. They're not employed by Felix, but they are part of the package of being associated with the Mine Discovery Fund.
And Anthony, you've been there 6 months. Have you still got a smile on your face? Are you still happy with the decision to join Felix?
I am. The smile's actually...
else, ladies and gentlemen.
No, the smile's actually started to broaden a little bit since we started. We started another drilling campaign a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So we are now round 2, so to speak, in terms of the same target area that we drilled last year. Our geology team pulled all of the results from last year together in the first quarter of this year, and we published in March an exploration target on the Norwest Array, which maxes out at about 3.5 million ounces. But that's only down to 200 metres. So it's relatively conservative. We don't think we're sort of over-egging it. We've used a lot of information to pull this together from drilling data last year, overlaying geochemical programs over that, and having a really good understanding of the gold mineralisation and the footprint that we have. So we're today, this month, starting to drill into that target as we speak. So we're hoping to get through around 3,500 to 4,000 metres by the end of June.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And that'll give us a lot more information. And what we're also targeting with this program is to be able to put a maiden resource on the project around September, October this year.
Okay, we're running out of time, so I want to just ask you a couple more things. Anthony, are you still? You mentioned AI tech with the Mine Discovery Fund. Does that help you a lot with where you're at?
No, that's all been done. That was part of the initial acquisition.
Fantastic. What about funding for this latest drill program? Are you well funded for that?
We are. We raised capital in April, and we raised $2.8 million at 10 cents, which is slightly higher than where we're trading right now.
Okay. Well, look, I think that there's a lot of news flow. Just summarize up, if you wouldn't mind. I'm not getting to my 3 points yet. I just want to know, what's the news flow look like? Is it all about drilling for the next half of this year, the second half of 23?
In terms of news flow, Kerry, like I said, we're drilling right now. We'll have assays back, I hope, before the end of this month, so within the next 10 days. Once those first assays come back, there should be a fairly constant flow of news throughout July. we'll take the drill rig away at the end of this program, at the end of June. Once we get that assay flow coming through, we'll start to model that up and put that into our resource model and work towards this maiden inferred resource on the project. So I expect, fairly consistent assays plus resource news over the next sort of 3 to 4 months. Everything goes well, there's always an opportunity to get the drill rig back towards the end of the season and keep doing what we're doing.
And what I find interesting is it's almost like a quarry operation, as you said earlier. This is not, it's shallow, it's not high grade, but it's also very close to infrastructure. And as you said, Starbucks is still warm when he gets on site, far away from Fairbanks. So let's wrap it all up if we could, Anthony, and let me know, or let us know, 3 reasons people should be sitting up and taking notice of Felix Gold, ASX code FXG, right now.
Reason number 1, Kerry, 18 months into existence, and we have a 3.5 million exploration target on our flagship project at Treasure Creek. So that exploration target is a robust target. It's real. It's not made up, with funny numbers. So we're quite conservative in our thinking that that's a number that's very achievable. Secondly, the drilling program underway at the moment is designed to start to infill that target. So we're starting in the southern section of the target. We're drilling for 4 weeks, and at the end of that, 3,500 to 4,000 metres should be enough information to be able to put a maiden resource on this project.
Okay.
And I think the third one is just to circle back to that observation, or the reality of having a working existing operation right next door to us with Kinross and Fort Knox, that we can see their operation from our project. It's big, would have cost a lot of money to build, and our expectation is that we won't need to build our own mine. I think if we do get a commercial resource on our current target, then we will become very interesting for Kinross, who are running out of ore.
Oh, that's an interesting time, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? So they're drilling, they're in the right jurisdiction. And if you worry about Alaska, don't worry about Alaska. You can get his Starbucks at Fairbanks and be on site within half an hour. That's pretty impressive. And of course, Alaska is a great place to do mining because they understand it, they get it. So as I said right at the start, the ASX code is FXG. Company name is Felix Gold. And Anthony joined them in January. He's got a long pedigree of developing and managing companies. So I wish you all the best. I think you've been flying under the radar, Anthony. So I look forward to the news as we go through the rest of 2023. But for now, thanks for joining me on Small Caps.
Thanks, Kerry.